How can you make your content and training equivalent more snacky, like the way you consume your Instagrams and your YouTubes and all of that, right? Now that's a dynamic.
Some of the updates that we look at are essentially based on how AI can help in this entire employee experience.
Why do you think understanding EX and integrating EX solutions as per the need of the current dynamic environment is an absolute must? Hello and welcome to CIO News. I am Khushbu Soni, the founder and chief editor at CIO News. I'm very excited to share the screen with two gentlemen today. We have Shubham Srivastava, the chief product and technology officer at Eureka Forbes Limited. We also have Gaurav. He is the regional head for FreshWorks India. Shubham needs no introduction, but I'm going to take some time to do that. Shubham is an innovative chief product and technology officer recognized for spearheading digital transformation across various corporations. He is a visionary leader and specializes in building e-commerce, IoT, and data science platforms to drive customer engagement and operational excellence. It is a pleasure to have you, Shubham. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us today on CIO News Studio.
Thanks, Khushbu, and thanks so much for the generous introduction. Thanks so much. Looking forward to the discussion.
Excellent. I'm going to take some time to introduce Gaurav as well. Gaurav Prakash is the regional head for FreshWorks India, and he basically takes care of the expansion business for FreshWorks. He comes with over a decade of experience in consulting for technology, SaaS companies to achieve their strategic expansion goals. Prior to the stint with FreshWorks, Gaurav has worked with large global companies like PwC, Cvent, and Infosys. Welcome, Gaurav. Pleasure to have you on CIO News Studio.
Likewise, Khushbu. Thank you so much for this, and good to meet you, Shubham. Looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent. So while we're talking about modern employee experience, Shubham, if you can throw some light in today's time, why do you think understanding EX and integrating EX solutions as per the need of the current dynamic environment is an absolute must?
No, thanks for that, Khushbu. And I think it's a very core subject when it comes to employee experience. Employee experience by itself as a topic, as a subject, is a very core in today's world, given that the whole world from a working culture per se is moving between hybrid and work from home and from office and all of that. So it's being very dynamic in the way whole culture bit on employees and employee experiences is moving. So important to address that, and thanks, that glad that you had this topic for our discussion. Look, I think in today's world, if you look at any company, right, what is the core of that particular company, right? The core of that company from an offering per se is, of course, the product or the service or equivalent which that particular company is selling or providing. And the internal of that is, end of the day, employees, right? I mean, the ones who are actually powering that product, that service, and whatever comes out as an outcome is the whole gamut of work that the employees put together to collaborate and build it on a single product or a service. So I think, to me, if you look at just a very first principle basis understanding, if product is my outcome or the service is my outcome, my input largely is the employees. And if I am going to address the quality of the output that I want to produce, I definitely need to, from an input per se, address the core part, which is the employee and the corresponding employee experience bit. So I think from a first principle basis, what a corporate or what a company wants today from what they offer to their customers is a pure play reflection of how well the employee experience has been, how well the employees get treated, how well the employees get engaged, how well are they provided the right culture to prosper, to deliver, to engage, and all of that. So I think, to me, it's a very fundamental input behind any of a company's outcome. And that's why it's important to have a very centric employee experience sitting right at the center table of an organization to ensure they're able to build through a more nuanced, understood, and a more structured way to address employee experience. And that way should lead into driving better engagement, which helps drive better productivity, loyalty, and overall better experience which comes to the end customers. From my perspective, I think while the input is employee experience, the output is finally the product that you roll out. So that's why it's very, very imperative to have employee experience right at the center of your strategy and right at the center of your culture, and address this in totality, and just not have a siloed way to deal with that. I think that's employee and their experience is core part of a strategic formulation of any corporation and organization, and needs to be addressed and kind of solved through as you build the right product, service offering of any company.
Right. Thank you so much, Shubham, for throwing light into why is it important to have modern employee experience in today's era. My next question is, what are the key benefits that organizations are looking for in terms of EX solutions? And what are the cost savings, improved productivity, and better service delivery? How are they kind of measured as per you? What are the organizations and CIOs looking at in this perspective?
No, I think it's a very good question and a very relevant one when it comes to employee experience. So typically, if you look at Khushbu, the landscape on employee engagement, and if I look at, let's say, a workday in a corporate, right, it will be a function of employees, some of the employees on the field, some of the employees sitting in an HO on a boardroom, some of the employees working from home, right? Yeah. So there has got to be a collaborative setup which provides all of the employees on various different aspects of their work life, and then build them together to a single platform. Yeah. So that is one basic expectation to have, to say that, look, can I have a platform which can collaboratively bring and build all of the corresponding workflows or engagements for all the employees working at different set of places and working a different setup. Yeah. So that's one. So that's the fundamental ask of any of the collaborative platforms. Now the other part to those would be the non-functional part, which is more around how do you ensure there is a data security, how do you ensure there is the data or the correspondence on that engagement is secure, and all of it. Do employees have a DIY or a direct or a self-controlled way of operating that platform or that workflow? So there are various functional and non-functional aspects of the employee experience platform that you would like to enable. And given that there are dynamics around those, right? I mean, the dynamics around people sitting in a remote Zoom call from their home and presenting to a complete boardroom, sitting there in a West Coast SFO kind of a setup. Yeah. So there are dynamics there. Then there are dynamics of somebody trying to connect through in the middle of the presentation for a certain section or likewise, right? So there are dynamics there. So more from a functionality standpoint, it's going to be a mix of all of that put together with platforms which provide rightful collaboration, ensures the dynamics are met, ensures that there's of course resilience in terms of the platform stability, etc., and then covers the larger aspects on data privacy, etc. So I think there's a mix of all of those functional and non-functional part. From an outcome per se, as you rightly mentioned as part of your question, which partially also answered that question, is as a CIO, of course, I've got to be considerate on the cost that brings in and the kind of the corresponding operating costs or a capital cost those platforms build in, and then how that translates into some sort of a metrics on increasing productivity, if that can be measured, etc. Now, those are very controversial metrics. Productivity, as in general, has always been a controversial metrics to measure and all of that. So I'll not go there, but I think just to keep that very straight in terms of how do you measure a particular platform's capability or whether or not it suits your requirement. I think you have to draft down the scope or the functionality part of what you're looking at. And as I just talked about, some of them around collaboration, engagement, and then the dynamics of your workplaces and the set of people that you have across locations, inclusive of the other parts on privacy, etc. And then you look at, from a cost standpoint, what is that is coming from a CAPEX or an OPEX expense as such. Yeah. And yeah, I think if that is materialized with people getting covered across the complete corporate in terms of people accessing stuff around their desktops, their mobiles, and all of that. So I think if you're able to provide a platform which comprises all of that, you have a justification on the cost which you can manage in terms of your budget on CAPEX and as well as the OPEX. And if you're able to have a more resilience kind of a setup, that because you'll not be using these platforms time and again. So once that particular setup has been done, once that investment has been done, it takes a usual couple of months, quarters to kind of build or kind of fully roll out that kind of a platform. So you need a very stable and a resilience product that way as well.
Yeah.
So if you're able to have all of those criteria as part of your evaluation, and then you finalize on your solution, I think that makes it a more logical way to conclude. I think, again, as I said clearly, I don't think there's a metrics on productivity or likewise. I think the metrics should be that, can you measure the engagement of your employees on those platforms?
Yeah.
Can you measure the quantum of challenges or support tickets which are raised for that platform from a usage standpoint? So there are ways and means to measure usage of that platform, and most of the time the platform by itself will provide those users, saying that how many times people are logging, what is the average session duration, and corresponding, and that way you would know what sort of engagement you are getting.
Right.
So I would say that if you look at a couple of these metrics which are very straightforward and very measurable, and post facto, once you've done the right evaluation of these platforms, I think that could be one way to kind of look through and finalizing the right EX solution.
Absolutely. Perfect. On that note, Gaurav, I have a question for you. Because you interact with a lot of CXOs and CIOs across verticals, across different organizations, what are some of the pointers that they've been looking at, when it comes to evaluation? While, Shubham did covered most of the things, but if you can throw some light of, what is their expectations?
Sure, Khushbu. Great question. And again, I'll talk about a few trends that I've seen in my conversations with the CIOs and CXOs. Of course, Shubham, great answer. I'll take a leaf from Shubham's hat and also tell you about the top 3 trends that I'm seeing. One, increasingly post-COVID, CIOs and CXOs are looking at service desk as their central nervous system, right? They want all of their organization departments to be working in a cohesive manner, but also looking at the service desk from an employee lens rather than just departmentalization of the same. So that's one which I'm increasingly seeing. Secondly, I'm also looking at each and every CIO looking at increasingly moving away from not just IT, but also bringing in other departments into the mix. Again, like Shubham also said, a typical enterprise has 50 plus applications, right? From HR to admin to this and that. And then there are functional sides of it, which are directly employee facing. And then there's also the, what we can call as the other side of it, which is like data security, the uptimes. And those are really critical aspects of business. Like, you can have a great product, but at the back end, is your system running on the 99.9% uptime that, which is expected, especially when you are a product focused company. So, adherence to SLAs, as well as keeping that system running, reducing the errors when it comes to downtimes, that's of prime importance. And lastly, the trend that I'm seeing is, though all CXOs have always been gung-ho about customer experience, they're now also taking note of the internal customers, which are the employees. Where, like Shubham, you mentioned about the dynamics changing almost every 6 months post-COVID, and then now it's work from home. How is a certain employee joining the ecosystem, rather rejoining the ecosystem? So in order to ramp that up, there has to be a central nervous system in a proper, IT SM, or what you can call as an EX system. So these are some of the trends that I'm witnessing day in, day out.
Wonderful. And on that, if you can, tell us, how is FreshWorks ITSM solution really benefiting in this space?
Sure.
And what exactly is FreshWorks ITSM
absolutely
solution?
So we have a product in the ITSM space which is called Fresh Service, which is a modern solution that helps enterprises do more with less. So when I say modern, it also unifies across departments. It's not just restricted to IT, it also brings in the otherwise siloed operations. It also brings in asset, change, problem, and all the ITIL processes, puts it together, and then that is your employee experience. So there are 3 aspects of it. Of course, there's a employee side, which is, helped with your self-service portals, automations, So it also brings in all departments and is not just restricted to IT. So it brings in operations as well as other departments like admin, HR, so that the employee has only one place to go and it covers everything. So Fresh Service also ensures that your downtime is limited, as well as bringing the employee experience, elevating it, which further in turn helps two aspects, right? The employee who's using it, the ramp is high, there's everything at the click of a button, there's a mobile app. Also on the resolver side, kind of information that's just out there for the person to act on a ticket, all of that is properly packaged in Fresh Service.
Okay. Great. Shubham, I have a question for you. How are organizations catering to this changing employee expectations and the evolving technological landscape to continuously enhance the overall employee experience?
No, yeah, you're right. I think the whole dynamics around the way work happens today in a professional setup is all changing, right? And I was listening to Gaurav that FreshWorks, I think when you guys started, you started with the supports.
The Fresh Desk.
Fresh Desk, the core Fresh Desk, which is a flagship product, and now extending that across to employees as well. And the reason I was kind of picking that up was that look at potentially what an employee would need from an end-to-end per se, right? So, for example, today you would require, let's say there's a hardware issue in your laptop, you raise a support ticket and you're kind of raising it through either a Fresh Desk or equivalent kind of a setup. And now you also have, let's say, a Fresh Desk or equivalent ITSM tool, which essentially is all plugged together. Yeah. So that way you have a single platform where you are able to also ingest a lot of customer-led or customer-directed requests. And you also have an internal tool and all of that put together is a single platform.
Yeah.
So you don't have to actually now log in into 2-3 different systems. You're actually looking at one platform, one setup to deal with, right? So from a dynamic per se, that is what things are changing. That if I want to have most of my stuff done in most productized way, I would need a very seamless experience on my platforms, right? So as a technology leader who would like to improvise on providing the right productivity tools to the employees, you would need that seamless platform to be enabled. Yeah, that's number one. That to me is in today's world is a table stake. Yeah. So that way you just log in once or you have a single sign-on equivalent and then you have access to everything.
Right.
With the rightful security and the corresponding authorization, authentication all in place. Yeah. Now that to me, as I said, was a beginning. Now, as you move on, for example, there are numerous of those that today people log in and are kind of, the joining is happening remotely, right? So somebody who's sitting there in a tier 3, tier 4 city is joining the organization right from sitting from their home, right? So now you're actually doing the rightful onboarding of the whole process, which was meant to be done sitting inside a room in a one-on-one kind of a setup with all of these, different set of papers signed and a plethora of processes and all of that. And then you have a schedule for your induction and whatnot, and all of that happening in a complete offline kind of a setup. Now imagine all of that is now concentrated into all digital and in a single platform, in a unified platform, which has access to almost everything of the organization. So the use cases are the one where the ideation should be then on all of these employee experience platform, and the dynamics to those are that as you change your employees' workflows, and then you can start it from thinking through that employee does an onboarding, and then he's engaged, and then he's requesting for certain things, and then he's let's say engaged more and spending more time in the company and all of that, right? And then finally, let's say he or she exits and moves on. So the complete life cycle of an employee workflow is all managed and addressed to that particular platform. And each of these individual states of the life cycle will have dynamics, because the organization may have got changes across the data privacy, may have got changes across different other setups, may have changes across the workflows for that particular organization or that vertical which that employee is in. For example, if you have an employee who's working on a service aspect of a product, and there has to be a training and corresponding stuff which has to be given to that particular employee or that particular vertical, all of that has to be now digitalized and now have to be snapped in a way that the employee is able to take through that and kind of use the latest formats of contents, like the way we were talking offline, right? That how can you make your content and training equivalent, more snacky, like the way you consume your Instagrams and your
Correct.
YouTubes and all of that, right?
Correct.
Now that's a dynamic. Now you can't have a legacy system which is all monolithic or kind of sitting out there with a 30-year system attuned to that set of content task what people consume today, right? So if you look at the dynamic is not about the organization changing or organization finding ways and means of addressing employees' need. The important part is that as an individual, as a digital savvy employee, there is a way and means in which I consume a certain content or consume a certain digital aspect. If you're able to attune your workflows around those, then there is a natural engagement and my productivity automatically increases because now I'm more engaged because that's what I am looking forward in my personal time. And if you're able to get that kind of a format and get that kind of a engagement with the platforms that you would enable me with, it just gives me the rightful edge on driving productivity, on engaging more, on driving loyalty, all of that. So I think in my opinion, it's going to be evolving. Number one, there's no one thing fits all kind of a thing. The important thing from a technology leadership per se would be that can you find a platform or can you find ways and means of creating that platform either through Freshdesk or equivalent growth platforms, ITSM platforms or likewise, which are always forward looking, which are changing, which have a ways and means of attuning their workflows or processes as per your need. Like I said initially, that while you do a lot of evaluation in terms of finding the right product for your employee experience, the other aspect from a continuity per se would be that how well is that product attuned for having or driving a flexibility in changing and adapting to the latest trends or technologies. I think to me, a mix of those would be something that we should be looking at in any of these tools and driving employee experience by and large.
Fantastic. You spoke about today's hybrid working and remote working employees, how the onboardings are happening, right? How can organizations really make that seamless? I mean, of course, by deploying various solutions that are available, but do you think it can still get seamless with, these technologies being on board? Do you think this is going to be the future and this is how it's going to move forward is only?
No, absolutely. I think the question is not about is it possible or not. The question is that it is possible. It is happening right now. And there is, you can't, if you build a platform, you don't build a platform, the employees are moving in that direction.
Right.
The dynamics around how I work today and the kind of flexibility I would need today in terms of my engagement, in terms of my productivity and all of my work stuff is changing drastically. And it's changing for good. I think people are getting to this is a whole debate of the 70 hours week and X hours and 80 hours week, etc. It's just addressing around there, and there are different facets of that conversation. But that's not the larger point is not into the midst of that controversy. The larger point is that people have different set of needs and their own ways and means of working together today, and we have to acknowledge and accept that. Now, if you are able to do that, the idea is that then how do we facilitate employee experience platform which can attune to those expectations. In my opinion, as I said, I think from a technology standpoint, this is definitely doable, and there are platforms who are providing those functionalities, etc. But you still would be requiring to find through the right amalgamation of the functionalities and features that you need on these platforms. But to your larger point, and before getting into the tech solve of or the product solve of those or the process solve for those, I think the important thing from a strategy standpoint should be that you have to make it seamless. Now, if you have to make it seamless, you have to enable hybrid, remote, and all of that different set of workflows and enablement. And I'll tell you a very specific use case, right? Just to make sure that the strategy is clear, but it's also not at a very high level. At a certain point in time, there are different bandwidths which each of the employee could be facing at like somebody sitting in a Kanpur, somebody sitting in a Bangalore, somebody sitting in let's say a Gurgaon or stuff like that, or somebody sitting, let's say in Philippines, somewhere. Now, all of these people put together, let's say, are doing a particular call or a meeting or likewise, and they are having different bandwidth issues and corresponding. Now, a platform should be able to address and understand those and should be able to enable them all in a way that juncture of bandwidth delta is not deliberating that particular call or that conversation, right? And that way you kind of create a solve for it. But at a strategy level, when you're formulating that one platform, a seamless experience, and all of it, you have to take those consideration in mind. That look, my employees are going to be all around the corner. They will be working in different shifts with a different time period, etc., etc. But I still should be able to provide them a one single platform to solve for it.
Yeah.
To your question, I think the answer is yes, and there is no chance there is a no to that. It's about how well you are able to build that, because the dynamics are changing, the world is moving. That you just have to spearhead a little ahead of that, because typically these platforms from a rollout or from an execution per se takes time. So you have to be at least ahead of what expectations your employees would have, and that way you should be a technology leader should actually be driving that agenda with the likefuls of the human resource partners or the leadership in human resource teams. I think that's very, very important, very strategic. I think it's the important thing that we need to understand is that this is not a tactical point in time solution.
Yeah.
This is not a tactical point in time situation. The scenario around the employee and the workforce and the employee experience engagement is going to be dynamic. And if that's the case, then you have to build it right from the top. And you can't have a tactical way to solve for it when some of the dynamics change, right? Yeah. So in my opinion, if you build it and think through the right to the question that you asked, that is it possible? Of course it's possible, and you have to ensure that you provide a seamless experience and you stick to that, and then build the rightful solutions which provide or the rightful collaborative tools that you provide to your employees, addressing that, and they are proactive enough to manage the dynamics, is what I would say. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. We spoke about the importance of modern employee experience solutions. You gave a heads up about how FreshWorks is helping in this space. If you can share some of the use cases, that have been deployed in ITSM solution era, and if you can share some of the customer references, if you have any, that will be wonderful.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for that question. See, FreshService, which is our ITSM solution, is currently being used by more than 15,000 customers across the globe. And customers use it for different use cases. Like what Shubham mentioned, like the FreshService is a kind of a solution which encompasses multiple departments. So case in point, I'll talk about Mahindra & Mahindra. And this was a project which was called Project Anubhav, which was spearheaded by their global CIO, Rucha Nanavati herself. Now look at Mahindra & Mahindra as a organization. Definitely is a business which has been running for so many years, has 2 to 2.5 lakh employees. Now what they realize is that they really need to unify their service desk. That's one. Second, they were looking for a modern solution, and they were also looking at a solution which was across departments, and they were looking at it from an employee lens, not necessarily a department lens. Because otherwise what happens is there are more applications and tools that a internal customer, which is an employee, has to go and use, which eventually makes the employee think, why do I have to go to IT for this? And why do I have to raise a ticket for HR, and for my travel I have to go to another portal? It just becomes so many portals to use, and that is something that they wanted to unify. Of course, they were also looking at automations, which is something FreshService empowers them to do. And it's not just automations with respect to just a few workloads here and there. It has to be seamless, like Shubham just mentioned, right from an employee onboarding to making sure that assets are allocated, making sure they're added to a directory, a DL, right? And then also ensuring that everything that the employee would use in its overall life cycle, right from start to exit, is covered. And then also the asset management piece of it, and the other modules that come in with FreshService, the operation side of it. So that's something that they've really made good use of and has been implemented, and they've then reduced their overall cost to serve, because companies normally look at cost to serve only on the customer side. What FreshService enables and empowers you to do is also making you do more with less. What that means is that your resolver group is still a finite number. So you have to make sure that every ticket that comes in, the cost to serve that ticket has to be reduced. How you can do it? By automations, by bringing in AI, and bringing in all the new features that FreshService offers. And we also have multiple references with the Radisson Group utilizing it for their employee experience. InfoEdge, as an example, It's probably India's first digital native, the parent company of Shadi.com,
Yeah.
99 acres, Jeevan Sathi, 99 acres, Naukri, so on and so forth. They have their entire company, the entire enterprise rolling up to Freshservice, and that's their go-to tool. So there are multiple companies who are making good use of Freshservice and a very efficient use at that.
Great. If you can throw some light on what digital tools and infrastructures are needed, for CIOs that result in productive outcome when it comes to employees and employee experience.
Sure. So again, as I typically think through these kind of problems, right? Start with the top of the pyramid thing. So I think the first and foremost thing is that you need cloud-based tools, which are secure and correspondingly address your data privacy and data security policy and IT policy. And again, I'm just leaving that definition to individual corporations to incorporate. But largely, all of these have to be secure and cloud-based tools. Enable collaboration, which ensures that you are able to have, and again, I don't want to name a certain set of tools, etc. But I think where you can have meetings and we can have remote meetings, etc., all facilitated into a single setup.
Yeah.
If you, let's say, you are sitting in an HO in a boardroom and we are doing this meeting where you have a couple of folks joining from different parts of the world, somebody sitting in their offices, somebody sitting in from their home and all of that, and they can seamlessly collaborate and have that discussion done where we are able to hear and see through almost 200, 400, 500 odd people at a time, right? And this is just a number, and that number can change basis individuals. So you need the rightful cloud tools, you need the collaboration platforms, etc. Then you also need certain set of collaborativeness where you would require, let's say, a specific channel for a certain team, etc. Right? So you have, let's say, in typical agile world, and most of the companies follow agile methodologies. So you have pods and you have squads and you have all of those corresponding small groups which can independently operate and work together. So you need ways and means of enabling that. There are various tools which are imbibed with the agile methodologies, and agile is just an example. I mean, you can have various other ways and means of executing your projects or running your operations. But if you're able to imbibe certain tools and technologies which can enable that methodology and provide a digital way to engage with your employees, I think that's another important bit. So when rubber hits the road, once you got the platform in, you had all of these people working together in different set of projects, etc. So it's important to have that address at the functional part of it. Remember my initial part to say that, look, address and understand what is the functional scope of your platform, right? So if you are able to enable the rightful tools which provide employees that access to those tools where their workflow becomes very seamless. So what they are discussing in a set of 4 and 5 is actually have a digital workflow and a footprint, and corresponding to that they can be enabled on that. I'm not trying to name, but I think doing something like a Slack or equivalent could help at times, right? And there are various corresponding set of collaborative platforms which do that. So I think a couple of these are would be important ones. The other important thing which I was hearing Gaurav say is also that this whole notion of having these too many tickets, too many platforms, and too many tickets all over the place is also a very poor experience in the practical sense, and it just costs too much of waste of time, leading to lack of productivity, and also a very bad experience when it comes to very basic things like solving for maybe the hardware thing and solving for your email thing and all of that, and even trying to get, let's say, your pay slips or trying to understand your taxation and all of that, right? So there are various aspects where employees are kind of engaged in the organization. So if you're able to build through the right tools which helps you just one single place get everything, in even the knowledge bases, and when I talked about the support and all of that, we also talked about and touched a little bit into the training and the corresponding upskilling bit, right? Yeah. So that again has to be facilitated in the same platform. So I think if you are into an upskilling setup, does that same platform provide you ways and means of going through the knowledge base or subscribing to certain skill set, lectures, tutorials, courses which can help you do that. You can do your various statutory compliance led setups there, the POSH thing or equivalent. So all of that, if that can be facilitated both from an support standpoint, day to day, end user support per se, the hardware support per se, the HR processes, the finance process, all of that can be put together. So in my way, in my opinion, I think one, having it in cloud, another having a collaborative setup, another ensuring that you get the project management methodology and a solution for that enabled on that platform, a training and a leadership development kind of a setup there, and the rest of it, both from a payroll or from asset management and all of those per se, if all of those tools can be imbibed into a single one, I think in my opinion that could be a good way to begin. And as I said, there's no real one one buzzword or one tool that can solve for it. You just have to get it together. I think the important thing would be that we should not get lost to say that you will only be having one tool. I think you can still use multiple tools for each of them. The important thing would be that how can you make that experience seamless. I'm nowhere saying that the solution of that would mean that you're using just one platform. You can underline use multiple platforms, but from an employee experience, he's not saying that I have to, like the way Gaurav said, you have to go to one open this app, then open that app, and this, etc. So you're still on the same platform, and technology has wonderfully and magically solved and covered the final grain and kind of make the experience very seamless. And that's what seamless means, that underline you can be using just too many things, which is fine. But the end experience or the rightful experience is very, very seamless and kind of hiding that complexity and not passing it on.
All right. If you can throw some light on what are the future developments and updates that are planned, for the ITSM solution, Freshservice.
Sure. We are living in the age where pretty much every day we talk about a new AI tool, or we talk about that, okay, GPT has done this, or BART has done that. And Freshservice has been around rather 6+ years now. Some of the updates that we look at are essentially based on how AI can help in this entire employee experience ecosystem, right? And I would look at it from 3 sides. One is the employee itself. So let's say today when an employee goes in, and Shubham was talking about knowledge base still remains a major factor in an employee getting information about certain standard processes. Okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? What is our policy around this? What is my leave policy? What is my, let's say, maternity policy, and so on and so forth. Now, so many times what keeps happening is that the employees are rather given an entire article to read through. And today's time and age, this is where we are having a development that we will actually be giving the exact answer to the exact need. So if my question is very specific to my earned leaves, how many are going to get exhausted by, let's say, December 31st, it will be the exact line or a paragraph. And then also, of course, then there will be a link to the entire article which the employee can go through. And that really elevates the employee experience because you get what you want. And that too in a self-serve, in a conversational manner. If you say that, hey, and then there could be further questions on the base of it. And this essentially becomes a conversation, and you don't need to necessarily raise a ticket. First of all, we've already moved on from the writing an email and all of that. There's already self-service. So that's on the employee side. That's something which is planned and would be delivered soon. If you look at it from a resolver side, which is the agent, it could be from any team working on the ticket. Think of when this shift happens, okay? Imagine both of us as resolver agents in the IT team. You've been working on a ticket for 3 hours, now your shift ends and now I'm taking over. I would actually have to go through the entire ticket as to what all did you do on that, and then gain the context, which might take me half an hour to 45 minutes. I might be calling you. With a summary generator, which is an AI powered feature, what I can then see within the ticket as a private note is saying that, okay, what all was the conversation about, what all has been done, and then I can very quickly ramp myself up to what's the current state of the ticket and what exactly I need to do. Like in the future, it could also be nudges on what the next steps are going to be, right? So that really solves, one, the resolution time. It definitely helps the SLA adherence if you look at it from a group level. And then we were talking about downtimes, right? In times when like a system is down or a particular aspect of the product is down, this really helps. it also helps when there is a RCA that needs to be generated, right? So these become inputs which then gets ingested by the overall RCA.
Right.
Now look at it from a leader's point of view or a supervisor or an admin perspective. See, we already have great set of analytical reports. What we are moving towards and what's there going to be in the future is a prompt-led reporting, which is today, today is the age where we used to talk about data science being the most highest paid jobs. Now it's going to be the prompt engineer who's going to take over. So how nicely can you write a prompt that, okay, tell me about my top performing group in terms of CSAT, or the system itself, like Fresh Service itself would be giving those insights to leaders like Shubham, to the CIO, to let's say the middle management, to even supervisors and admins, that these are your top performing agents based on these parameters. This is where the SLA wasn't adhered to. This is the kind of tickets where we are not getting the kind of CSAT which was expected. So all in all, AI definitely is changing the game, and we're coming up with many AI-led features.
Yeah.
And that's where we see the EX also converging towards.
Wonderful. You covered the very important topic today, which is generative AI. I think AI is one big thing which is coming up.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
No, I know you're right. You're right. I think while Gaurav was speaking, I was actually wondering that there's so many aspects where I think generational AI could help on driving the employee experience or making that cutting edge. Yeah, and kind of proactively addressing some of these issues most of the aspects around employees assessment on their performance, or enabling them with the rightful tools or methodologies, or suggesting them with the rightful courses to go through to upskill, and likewise are you guys doing something around those?
Yeah, so FreshWorks has been looking at AI since 2017. So it's not really a flavor of the month or flavor of the season for us. But of course, the way we have evolved our employee experience tool offering, which is Fresh Service, has definitely, we've taken our learnings from GPT and imbibed them into our tool as well. Let me talk about three aspects of it, right? So we have something which we call as Freddy, which is actually our AI tool and AI feature set within Fresh Service. So one, there is a Freddy self-serve. So imagine being an employee and you are actually conversing with an AI, which is Freddy in this case, and talking about, okay, which is the next holiday? So let's say the AI would say that, okay, it's Christmas. And then you can also eventually sort of invoke a workflow from there and say apply leave. So you've not raised a ticket, you've not written an email, you haven't called anybody, but rather it is so seamless that it almost is conversational. So that is where we're looking at it from a...
And finding holidays on a fine line is also a very common use case.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
I don't... I mean, gone are the days when you would actually bookmark your leave policy and the leave calendar and all of that.
Exactly.
Now think of it from a resolver aspect, is what something we call as a Freddy co-pilot. So you're co-piloting, the AI is co-piloting with your resolver group or with your agent who could be from IT, admin, payroll, anywhere. So what this co-pilot is essentially helping is, a reply suggester. That, okay, because it has gone through your entire knowledge base and your earlier articles, and it understands the way, it has actually anticipated that what should be the reply for such a ticket. So a reply suggester is there. When agents are transferring tickets, there is a summary generator, right? So you can actually generate a summary, and then it actually helps the other agent pick it up so quickly. Thirdly, if you look at from a leadership point, there's Freddy Insights, which is GPT and AI powered insights into your service desk. So which are the groups which are the top performing, which is where you miss the SLA. And these are insights coming out from the system. You don't have to run a report on that. And then eventually where we would want to be is prompt-based analytics. We have a great set of analytics, but further, you can customize it without actually creating a report, but the AI does it for you. Sure. So for sure, AI has been imbibed in a rather, tremendous and efficient manner at FreshWorks. and I'm sure there are only better things to come.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Gaurav. This is really helpful. And I think I was just switching gears and maybe turn around for a question to you. How do you perceive Gen AI? I mean, look, as a founder, as an entrepreneur yourself, you're managing tons of employees now, and thankfully you'll be increasing. But what is your own perspective, both from an employee standpoint and as a media founder or as a media entertainment house? What exactly is your...
So,
sorry, we're digressing from the employee experience, but I think it's related. Yeah.
No, I'll cover both the aspects. One which is the topic of today, which is the employee experience. What I feel is that we're a team of 90 people, and we're growing rapidly. There's enough and more things that we've been doing. Our teams are very excited with all the work that we've been doing. But there does come a time when, we have people working from home, we have people who come to office, there's hybrid working as well. It comes a scenario when if we do not provide tools and technologies like these, it, we get compared, to organizations who would provide and look after employees. So today, while for them, it may not be, that of an importance that what are the kind of tools and technologies that I'm using. But if it is seamless, if they don't have to reach out to multiple people or multiple softwares, and those are the things which, they will of course compare with other organizations, right? Yeah. So it is very important to give them that kind of experience, and they feel that they've been treated well in the organization. So, this is across all segments of the companies, what I feel. And when we talk about generative AI, my team uses extensively. I have people in creatives, I have team, even in content sometimes, they, while of course, we know that, chat GPTs, these tools are not going to take away the human's intelligence. It will of course help, but giving that human touch, to enhance further is, what my team usually leverages these platforms for. So I do. And of course, we are also at the management are evaluating a lot of AI tools which can help us automate our work that our team is doing, and see how better can they work and not do the mundane task which can be taken care by automation. So that's how, there are various other means of evaluating AI is happening in the organization. And there are some which are so spoken about, readily available, which teams are using, which probably we are not even aware of at some time, so
No, you're right. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was telling somebody the other day that I wish I had GPT during my exam time
oh my God.
or B school or engineering, because if you only knew the answer for a 5 mark, how do you extend it to make it a 10 mark answer? I think we would have made good use of GPT.
In fact, I would just take a step ahead. I would say that why would you need an engineering if the chat GPT is producing code and that's what you love?
Exactly.
If let's say if coding and doing code is what excites you and a degree facilitates that, then effectively you have a tool which actually can facilitate all of it.
Yeah, in one of our town halls, it was discussed that the amount of time it used to create an API has drastically reduced now because of all, it's all GPT now which can actually do. True. Though one thing which always is something that we stand by is responsible AI, because like you said, something which just gets launched yesterday, people think that it should be a norm today, but there are data privacy side of it, and there's so many other concerns.
The brand ethos and all
exactly.
of that.
Not everything can be imbibed just within a week or a month. It has to go through its own cycle, and that's where people should know that.
Absolutely.
There has to be responsibility around AI as well.
That is true.
No, absolutely. I think just to extend all of this together, and I think where I foresee this going, and then kind of taking the next step would be that for stuff where, and as you and just what you also said, that look, if there is something that I am doing, it takes X time, if automation can solve for it, and I can then use my time and energy to focus on doing something more productive, effectively it is, and then there is of course when any technology comes, there is a challenge in terms of some sort of insecurity building amongst the employees to say that whether or not this technology is going to take my job or not. But I think that will be a transition period, and that happens with every technology. When down the line, when we had automation and QA and all of that coming in, we had a similar flux. So just reiterating on those experiences, I think for betterment, you will have the larger part of human intelligence focused on something which can be value add and which is not very directly reciprocable, whereas the rest of things can be taken care of in an automated fashion. And that is why if you relate to this discussion of having a 70 hours week versus companies and countries now looking at a 4-day working ways or a 3 days working week, etc. So I think these are two different sort of things, but I think the shift is happening. But in my opinion, I think if we are able to proactively use the generative AI and provide the employees ways and means of automatically helping them upskill, do better, and kind of, for example, let's say if I'm working on a certain platform and I know that as an individual I'm spending this amount of time in finding the right data and then connecting that with some other dot and then finally responding to a customer through an email and all. If I am doing that repeatedly and if somebody is there to kind of look through that and understand my pattern and automate larger part of that to say that, look, Shubham, this is exactly what you were looking at. Is this something that you think you want to get? And I say yes, and then it automatically kind of drafts that communication that would be formally sending, and that would have saved me, let's say, 3-4 hours. So I think something of that sort, which kind of proactively starts solving for larger part of my work today, makes it automated and gives you more time on adding value to some things which are more non-incremental, more multiplier. And I think in that way, if you look at the whole summary of what generative AI can build in, both from an employee experience per se and productivity per se, going back to the starting point of what an employee experience would mean, would be a lot better productivity. I think that in way is more forward looking, and I think there are ways and means in which this technology is driving that growth. I'm very excited about how that would kind of play. But I think the concerns around the transition bit will be there. And I was actually about to ask the question that how are your content creators feeling? Are they thinking that this AI is going to replace them completely, or are you doubling down the content creators? Or are you doubling down our ChatGPT account? What exactly is moving?
No, so see, one thing is there within our organizations. I mean, one thing that my people really believe that the kind of research and human touch that they can put to an article or to a conversation is of course going to be there. That cannot be taken away by chat GPTs, right? One is that, and second, there's always better work to do. I mean, while we can get a lot of articles, etc., a lot of news from various sources, but they have better work to do. They can, of course, interact with more people, understand. And today, I think that is more important. Like, we're here doing this chat show, trying to understand what are the best practices leveraged in your organization. So these kind of conversations, when my people, that is also the kind of content which is preferred, and this is not going to go.
These are the intangibles and the nuances which can never be digitized, honestly. I mean, I was listening to Shubham and it made me think of something that I read sometime back. In the early 20 years of the 20th century, right, there were carriages and there were horses, which then got replaced by cars, by the automotives, and they kept on. So there were people who thought what would happen to them, right? But then they upskilled. And that is exactly what's going to happen, what's happening with GPT and AI. AI was always there. It's just that now it's the generative bit which has taken more traction. But it will definitely, like both of you said, it will make sure that people upskill themselves and leave the mundane tasks to GPT. I think that's the only responsible thing to do.
Great. I think it has been a great conversation with you both, and I'm sure there are really good insights for our viewers through this chat that we've had today. Any last pointers that you would want to add for our viewers, your fellow CXOs?
No, thanks. And I think this was a great conversation and great time spent on learning so many things and kind of also hearing so much of experiences of both of you. So Very, very fortunate to be part of this. Thanks for having me here. I think, in my opinion, for something like an employee experience, honestly, this has been the last thing which typically CIOs and CXOs today, at least in the subconsciously the legacy world, have kind of prioritized amongst the things. And no disrespect to that. It's just that from an organization standpoint, that's how exactly things have moved. But then, if you look at today's world and the way things are shifting and things are moving, ensuring that now people have different ways and means of securing their career and finding ways and means of earning. So it's largely not about now making your ends meet, even in a country like India, right? So people are having different ways and means of kind of doing some innovative stuff and kind of taking care of them and their family, etc. So now, given that thing and given that there is no insecurity, etc. on jobs or likewise, people now demand and they require and they have that demand of experience, right? So now, in my opinion, if corporation have to prosper and they have to have a predictable life cycle in terms of the overall revenue, profit and loss, and all the corresponding hunky-dory metrics that a corporation deliver, and the rightful product, which is the first thing as an offering or a service, likewise. So, in my opinion, it's not to be taken granted. I think the employee experience is something, as I said initially, that it's the input to your output, right? And that has to be at the center stage. It has to be prospered, nurtured, thought through, put through the rightful tables, have a part of the strategy discussion, and then make it centralized and make it core to the boardroom discussions, if any, unless people have shifted and find different ways of replacing that. So so I think a very, very good discussion. Glad that you had employee experience as a topic of our discussion, and glad that we revolved around so much of technology trends, specifically generative AI and likewise. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Shubham. Any last pointers, Gaurav?
Yeah, sure. I mean, right now, in today's world, employee experience and having a consolidated, unified, right-sized tool or a software being used is not a good to have anymore. And corporations and enterprises are rightfully understanding that it becomes a must-have. Experience is, as a horizontal, is expected everywhere. At your home, at the company with which you work, and as well as the brands with which you interact with. So definitely, this is the way to go, and it's only going to become more and more in the kind of environment, the work environment, which is shifting, and with all the technologies coming in, and all the assets in terms of hardware, software, the increasing sizes of. So there's one solution which definitely has to revolve around employee experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much once again for joining us on CI News Studio, and I look forward to having many more future conversations.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.